matrix F versus G.
Last week from Near Future Laboratory episode 006, it's week 48 of 2023. I'll start with failures of imagination. It seems a lack of or failure of imagination crops up like a virus whenever an organization gets to a point where it seems too hard to do anything other than what it's used to doing, and it seems as easy to assume the status quo will last forever as it is to find an excuse not to exercise. I experienced this secondhand while at Nokia when the iPhone was introduced. Failure of imagination now even has its own Wikipedia page. So, what is failure of imagination? Well, it's often described as an inability to visually represent the possibility of an event, as in this quote from a former intelligence analyst.
The failure will be a gap in analysis to paint a convincing picture to leadership.
A gap in analysis to paint a convincing picture. Notice the metaphor of visual representation. This brings me now to the proposal to imagine possible AI futures I mentioned in episode 005 just last week. We desperately need this to avoid a failure of imagination. We need a material cultural artifact that resonates with our visual and tangible imaginary. Now, I'm not talking about the dystopian nor the utopian outcomes. I'm talking about something quite a bit richer. Normal, ordinary, everyday life, the humble aspects of a world of AI. Ask yourself, what's for breakfast in the AI future? What do I wear to go for a bike ride in the AI future? Who makes it? What is it made of? What features does it have? How do I clean it? What sports team also wear it? And what is a sport in the AI future anyway? How does one train for it? All of this. What we don't need are more prose-based science fiction stories, and we sure as shit don't need more podcasts about AI futures. What we need in order to make some sense and help create a meaningful trajectory into possible futures are representations of the worlds we want to inhabit, and the full richness of what inhabit and what worlds means. When NASA created the Space Settlements design study I mentioned in episode 005, they were prescient in that they included rich, vibrant illustrations to augment the dry analysis of engineering requirements. These illustrations are what people will remember. Now, I'm not saying we make paintings of the AI future. Those probably won't help with the more urgent task of feeling into the futures. What I am saying is we create something like a magazine that would have come from a future we can imagine into. Maybe a few types of magazines. What would an issue of The Economist look like? What are the advertisements? Or a magazine that is of the sort you might find at a grocery store checkout, some one-off holiday shopping or seasonal recipe magazine. You see what I'm getting to? Rather than going surgically straight at the question, we circle around it, taking in the full breadth of the world. Now, I get tons of feedback and offers for funding of one sort or another, and calls are arranged going on into the next year. We need to move quickly. Are you on board? Do you have access to funding and or know-how, know who to talk to? Drop me a line. What's next? What's this thing?
It's our spot for Near Future Laboratory.
We'll get to it. I've got one other thing here for the episode.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let me get set here. What is design fiction? How can it help you remain innovative and creative? How can it augment the bland, prose-based research, charts, graphs, and horrid PowerPoint decks and bring your research alive? This is what we do at Near Future Laboratory. We make your strategy and futures foresight research come to life. Look, imagine design fiction this way. It's as if an archaeologist was able to travel into the future, find some artifacts that are evidence of the world, and bring them back for us to analyze and consider. Imagine you're researching the future of the home. Sure, you can write a report or craft a scenario. But imagine how your stakeholders would respond if you showed them a box of cereal from a corner store in that future. Something that translated all the quantitative data and trends charts into something tangible and real. Or you're expected to present the future of sports, and you showed them a newspaper found in a cafe with a sports section that showed how AI and prediction analysis was completely changing the nature of sports betting. Or you're researching future consumer electronics products, and you showed some of your conclusions in the form of a product catalog found in someone's mailbox in the future. These are all projects that Near Future Laboratory has done for our clients. These artifacts are actual made objects that augment, anchor, and help make bland prose-based research, charts and graphs, and PowerPoint decks tangible, vivid, and alive.
Do you want to know more? visit us at nearfuturelaboratory.com or email Julian at julian@nearfuturelaboratory.com.
Okay, next. Speaking of vibrant representations of possible futures in the material cultural artifacts, you probably know about this thing. Yep, it's the futurist favorite, the generic cone of plausibility with its steep thingies and years all neatly linearized along the cone. So I get the generic cone. Sure, it's a visually rich way of starting to talk about how to predict into the future. Have you read C.W. Taylor's pamphlet that introduced it? No? Good. Let me read for you the paragraph that explains how to use the cone. It's a good one and a good exercise that I doubt many have actually done to the letter. So it starts like this. Each futurist selects a trend from a list of current strategic trends that characterize corporate or national strategy. Over several weeks, he or she researches the trend subject, then processes the trend through the cone of plausibility to a forecast focus plane 15 years hence. He or she does this by projecting the probability of sequential consequences along theoretical timelines into the future. The exercise ends with a presentation of trend projections by each potential leader that is critiqued by the other program participants.
God, that's remarkable.
So, what's missing here, in my less than humble opinion, is what exactly process the trend to a forecast focus plane means, practically speaking. What is the outcome in pragmatic terms to process the trend? Does it mean draw a dot? Write an analytic paper? Run some statistical analysis? My guess is something heavily analytic, not something along the lines of make a newspaper from the world of that focus plane 15 years hence. This is what I certainly do, Near Future Laboratory does, show, don't tell, what the forecast focus plane world feels like through material cultural artifacts. Televisions you can talk to, make a funny advertisement showing someone asking Siri to show an episode of Rick and Morty and have a smart alecky Alexa mocking them in turn. Or an entry in TV Guide. Self-driving cars now all over the place according to your several weeks of research on autonomous vehicles. Make a Scandal-style magazine cover with a story about Will Smith hard asleep in the front seat of his self-driving Escalade as it does circles around Brentwood. You get what I'm saying. And while we're at it, how come no one has done this yet for AI? But back to this cone. Why is it a cone anyway? Is it a cone of plausibility because it fits into some sort of epistemology of change where we want a time going upwards? Or is that just an artifact of the document, which is in a typical portrait orientation, and so to make time going from left to right, one would have to constrain the space available? How would we talk about futures if there were a different geometry? Suppose we turn the cone into the torus of plausibility, and our whole way of imagining futures, evolution, progression completely changes. Or turn the cone plausibility into the Mobius of plausibility, and again, we imagine differently. The silly point I'm making is that all of these things matter as they define the patterns of our way of imagining what futures are and how we are meant to make sense of them. Knowledge isn't fixed, it is formed, and we use metaphors of various sorts to align ourselves in our sense-making. The metaphors shape what and how we know. We can use new metaphors for futuring, and design fiction helps us do that. Let's make sense of possible futures with tangible metaphors, not with what fits nicely in a landscape-oriented PowerPoint deck or a portrait-oriented sheet of paper. Okay, that's what I got for last week from the Near Future Laboratory. Don't forget to sign up for Super Seminar over at superseminar.school. We've got 3 sessions you won't want to miss. How generative AI is shaping our ways of knowing. It's just right on cue. Also, want to join the Near Future Laboratory community? Head over to patreon.com/nearfuturelaboratory and sign up so you can join over 1,000 of us in the Near Future Laboratory Discord. It's only $10 a month if you spend that much on a single beer or complicated coffee beverage, or $25 if you consider yourself a professional with a salary. Our Discord is full of creative, futures-oriented generalists, and it's where projects happen and where networking and job opportunities happen. That's at patreon.com/nearfuturelaboratory. Okay, this has been episode 006 of Last Week from the Near Future for week 48 of the year 2022. I'm Julian, and I'm out.
Light matrix F versus G.
I just want to verify the attitude. We are going to wait before we go to the -6 LVY speed attitude until after we have adjusted the payload bay door. Is that correct?
Roger, go to Bravo.